Guyana, and welcome to another edition of Alliance on the Move. We're coming to you all across Guyana on social media, and most importantly, through DTV Channel 8 in Berbice. This evening, I'm really happy to have leader of the Alliance for Change, Kamraj Ramchatan, and Member of Parliament, former GS of the Alliance for Change, David Patterson, and I am Kathy Hughes, coming into your homes this evening and wishing you well. I want, unfortunately, to start on a slightly somber note. We in the Alliance for Change would like to extend our deepest condolences to the family and friends of Lionel Jaikaran. Some of you may know or recall that Lionel was a deputy mayor a couple of years ago, and we were very saddened to hear of his sudden passing. We wish his sister, especially Nadira, and the rest of their family strength and blessings at this difficult time.
Yeah.
With that said, I want to move on to our program. And having finished and giving you some good information on our budget programs, you would have been able to hear the budget presentations and all that good information on projects and things coming up in the future. What we want to do this evening is to really deal with a lot of the topical issues that we feel it's important for you to get a glimpse of and know a little more about. So, having said that, I want to welcome Kamraj and David. How are you all doing this evening?
Oh, I'm fine. Good night to all the viewers. Good night to everyone in Region 5, 6, and wherever you are around the country. Just allow me as well to echo my condolences to Lionel. I mean, he's quite a good friend of mine. Not only was he a deputy mayor representing in Alliance for Change from 2016 to 2018 in the Georgetown City Council, he was also a long-standing president of the Georgetown Cricket Club, which I'm a member with. Kamraj, both myself and Kamraj loved cricket, loved sports, was very, very effervescent and lovely character. So it was a shock, and like you, I'd like to extend my sympathies to his sister and the rest of the remaining family members, his daughters and his wife. May he have rest in peace.
Let me just also, Kathy, signal my concurrence with the sentiments expressed. He was a very close friend, and we would visit that cricket club on some Friday evenings, and even during our tenure as ministers, after the cabinet meetings, to meet him and a couple of friends, and would enjoy ourselves there. It really, was shocking news when I saw that indeed he had passed, and in those unfortunate circumstances. So to his family, our condolences. Of course, I'm going to look forward as to the dates and so on for his burial, so that I'll certainly be there.
Yep. A difficult time. I wanted to start with a little update on Gaisuko. I know that continues to be a challenging situation. We're all aware of that. And I know specifically, David, that they had a very unfortunate situation. I think the chimney fell down or something like that. Can you give us some of your thoughts on what's happening on the Gaisuko front? Kamraj, you can jump in after.
Yes, Kati. So this is an issue we've been flagging for some while. I mean, us in Line to Change, and I think the rest of the country. And the PPP would like to always make it out as though we're anti-sugar workers or anti-progressive. However, what we are is anti-wastage. A lot of money has been put into the budget again this year. They will come for another supplementary. There's a lot of issues, I know there's a question about the procurement and the procurement of certain types of equipment and tractors, articulated tractors and hoppers and load hoppers. When the new management led by what's his name, Sis Narayan, they discarded centuries of tradition, centuries of advice, and started on a new remedy. Loads of untested, unproven for Guyana, they may be well suited for other countries, but for Guyana, some of these equipment they're buying, and everyone knows it. You know, I mean, it's a question like the emperor's new clothes. That story whereby the emperor was naked and everyone was scared to say, "Boss, you have on no clothes." It's exactly what's going on with Gasuku. I think about 3 or 4 weeks ago, a chimney at Skeldon collapsed due to lack of maintenance, and of course the PVP will do their normal and say that we shut down the estate. But Skeldon started in 2009, costs 200 excess $billion and never, ever worked. And then, of course, they're saying every year they come and they hold out hope and they say that they're going to reopen Rose Hall. It is so bad. And of course, we know this now because we have supporters who are within the sugar industry. It is so bad that they ban their workers from even walking into the Rose Hall factory with their cell phones. So they can't take any pictures. And so, but of course, we've seen the pictures. I mean, leaking roofs, derelict buildings. And obviously now you see they're going out. They don't even have cane. They're trying to get private cane farmers. But in this period of time, no one wants to go back into invest in cane farming with the uncertainty of it. There's no guarantee that when you go and you plow and you furrow and you till your 1,000 acres of and put cane, the guy could even buy it from you. That the guy would even still be around. So I wanted to let the people in Barbados know that it's just and come on. What they're doing is just simply like holding out a cart in front of you and keep leading you on next year, this year. Since when Cesarine came with a turnaround plan, you brought another turnaround plan. The whole board was fired. They rehired. So generally, we would think that it is better served. The money would be better served into doing some more productive things. I mean, right now, as you know, it's how the cash crops. Agriculture is there's a huge strain on our cost of living. That $25 billion, Kemraja, whatever it is, they could have spent that in direct interventions for agriculture purposes for the sugar workers, assist them with land, assist them with fertilizers, guaranteed, give them for the first year or so, give them a guaranteed price for plantains or whatever it is they're doing, you know what I mean? And that is the way you can rehabilitate them and allow those persons to stay in agriculture and bounce back. Not what they're doing, it just, I mean, the CEO gets hundreds of millions of dollars every year, has produced nothing. I mean, there was a sugar shortage. Imagine that. Guyana had a sugar shortage last year. And I'm sure this, and they blamed every single thing. The Ukraine war, COVID, flooding. This year they blame out of season and the workers as well, lack of labor. Imagine that they blame the workers, lack of persons want to come in and think. But everybody wants a future, and they're not gonna go into sugar, knowing that they're gonna go into a job that in the industry that may not even be around at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, David. Let me just continue with the thought as to what is the fundamental error of the government. And of course, Barbadians know it more than me. But like you said just now about the King's Close, some of them just do not want to confront it. And that is the trouble sometimes I get with my Barbadian colleagues. They know that it was wrong to go and spend from that time that since they were installed to now, $13 billion. And you bet that we are going to be asked in Parliament for some additional monies. And this is not monies from, where you are taking monies additionally from purposes of that bond that we had started it. And all of this is going to zero, as it were, because as we have indicated, the next generation of workers that will constitute the workforce for that industry do not want to be a cutlass and punt mentality worker. They want, in view of the oil and gas sector, to be services oriented. You will be working in offices. You will be doing a lot of design work. There's so many other work rather than that extremely back-breaking work of cutting, putting in the back, walking to the pond, throwing in the pond, and so on. And especially in the context when the world market prices for sugar remains low. And even when you now have to produce tertiary products, you do not have the mechanization, you do not have so many of the other facilities that could ensure that you get the sugar in a tertiary form so that you could make some profits. So that is the fundamental, in my opinion, the shortage of the workforce. And then even when there is a crop, Gaisuco has this problem with GAU that calls strikes for the least of reasons, just to justify their workers and so on. And I remember one year in our administration, there were so many strikes called by GAU and so on. In any event, this thing is not going to help the sugar industry. We have already, the word is prognosticate. It's a big word, but it means that it ain't got a future. It's a black hole that you're going to pour money in. And that is why we had said in the program, Alternative Livelihoods, that instead of spending $14 billion on sugar, take even half of that and start redistributing the land as we were doing. Remember, we started a project at Wales, right? Alternative livelihoods, and give them the sugar workers 10-acre plots and so on, and then train them how to do the 5 Ps, I think. Prawns, peppers, plantains, and pumpkins, and something else. And because these were said to be crops, if they are planted in an intensive agricultural mode, will give you almost 5 times more profit than sugar.
Yeah.
And that is what you got to do. Prawns is worth more than 5 times, as we had seen during the analysis that Noel Hulda had done with us. But they don't want that. These people in the government take the ice past their East Indian brethren and supporter base. Cut cane. You go and cut cane. They mustn't know anything. But you want diversification of this industry and all the lands that are there. And you want to provide especially pineapples and prawns for hotel industries in the Caribbean and so on, for the tourists and things like that. But no, they want this mono agriculture, cut the cane, fetch them in punt, and they will forever get this punt mentality. And as I have associated with punt mentality and cutlass mentality, is that whenever the Monday come for vote, they're going to go and vote PPP. You get more educated people from the Berbice and Region 5. They're going to start questioning the government. What is that policy all about? Please, don't just create employment for me to go and cut cane. But there is a method behind the madness. Yeah, and that is what they want for their supporters. So they mustn't question them. They mustn't even think about it. You just go and cut cane and vote PPP. And that is what we are ending up with.
Well, I hope that, the information that we share and a lot of what we're talking about right now, I'm remembering the green paper we did.
That's right.
And we were in government, which talked about allocating those lands. And we actually started that process to some of the former sugar workers. And this is where we're saying to persons, all Guyanese, we must have the maturity to look not only at what's happening today, but to prepare for tomorrow. And decisions that we make must not be just blind political decisions, but based on what a government is delivering to you. And therefore, you're absolutely right, Kamraj. Some of that, those billions of dollars could have gone directly to sugar workers, former sugar workers, and not into something that we don't see at all. Because right now, we're giving billions, but we don't see where it is going. Having talked about that, I wanted to go to an issue, and this is where, the constant worry about the best use of our resources.
That's right.
Finally, we have funds that are coming from our oil revenues. But as you know, we argued in Parliament that in terms of the minimum wage, the monies that we give to persons living with a disability, more funds should have gone into the pockets of each and every Guyanese. Now, one of the things that we worry about is how we actually check, how we ensure that there's no corruption. How do we ensure transparency and accountability? And we know that the main agency that we had set up was the GYETI program. And EITI is an international body that, once you sign on to, helps to check that your oil revenues are used in the correct way. And EITI has been in the news, and GY, the Guyana version of EITI, has also been in the news. Would you care to give us an update and what some of your concerns, Kamraj, might be on that?
Yeah, look, Kathy, the international body is an organization that wants governments that are involved in extractive industries or countries that are involved in extractive industries to ensure that they are transparent and accountable in these sectors to the extent that they are going to print out for EITI International, which is based somewhere in, I think it is Denmark?
Norway.
Norway. And all the contracts in relation to the extractive industries. So if we have a contract with ExxonMobil about our oil, which is an extractive industry, and gas, we have to state every single thing, whether we give them tax exemption, whether whatever we do, how much we're going to make, if it is 2% royalty, and so on. And we had set up a Guyana branch of EITI to do exactly that. It was literally sponsored at the cabinet level by Raphael Trotman, a former leader of the AFC. And then we set it up. We set it up in a secretariat headed by a fellow named Jadupat. Jadupat should be known very well by Barbicians. He's a Barbician, I think. And he is well known in the And Dr. Jadupat helped set this thing up, along with the Norwegians, and I think
the Americans gave us a grant of $6.2 million US dollars in 2016.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And what, not only in oil and gas, but all mining in sand, mining in gold, mining in diamonds, everything. So every player in the diamond mining industry, gold mining industry, whatever the mining industry, you have an obligation to put up in a report that I, Kamraj Ramjatan, got 3,000 acres of land to mine gold, and I have been giving the royalties for the gold, or whatever it is called, duties, and the taxes are being paid up and all of that. And I have paid up $100 million taxes and whatever it is. So it is complete in its transparency about each and every member within the industry. Similarly, for forestry, who get forestry concession, 300 acre. Barama had about 4 million acre, and so on. And all are supposed to be reported to the public via reports by the GYEITI, which they will put on the website. And all the reports for 2017, 2018, and 2019 are there. What has happened since the PPP has come into government is that they knock off Jadupat, Dr. Jadupat. He's an economist that was trained in Moscow. And Jagde was there around the same time. But Jagde don't like this fella. He knocked him off, and he gone and he put the fella called Prem-Mizir, Dr. Prem-Mizir. Now, you know he knocked off Jadupat for? He lied, and the government lied, and they said that how Jadupat is a member of the AFC executive.
USA branch. Yes.
The USA branch. He was never a member of the AFC. We had Vincent Adams was an executive member in another branch in America, and he came back and so on. We know about him. But the trouble is that Jadupat was not. But they just put this filth and what do they try? They pelt all kind of nastiness on you, and then they walk back and say, well, yes, it was Ramjatan executive. No, it was not. They gone and put, you know who they put? Prem-Mizir, who's a well-known PPP propagandist. Remember Prem-Mizir? Yeah. And he know nothing about extractive industry. He doesn't know nothing about economics. you know nothing about accounts. He is a writer and a sociologist and this and that and whatever, totally outside of the skill set that is required to be the head of EITI. And last year we had, because of what Premier Zero is doing as the head of EITI Guyana, we predicted that Norway and the international bodies are going to suspend or expel Guyana because this government wants to put people who are controlling the thing. They don't want other people to have a say. And that is why, we had problems recently that the thing was suspended by EITI, and the president, Irfan Ali, gone and start cussing down two very important civil society members, Van der Radzik and McCormack. Yeah, and fabricating, literally, putting on a big face on the television and in Facebook, saying that how these two people want to destroy Guyana and so on. It is a lie. The person who wants to destroy our transparency and accountability institution of GYEITI is the President Irfan and Jagdeo and all of them. And they come with this baby face, innocent face, and talk lie. I am so happy that Van der Radzik and McCormack cleared the air. And if you have been reading the editorials of Stabroek News especially, you would see how the president looking silly in view of him trying to manufacture a false excuse as to what caused the suspension. So look, this government does not like accountability and transparency. And accountability and transparency are two pillars of a democracy. All this government wants is a democracy with only elections and nothing else. No good governance, no rule of law, no transparency, no accountability. But when you win an elections, as well, they are there now, why don't they want to do the necessary things that is going to tell us who got all the big contracts in forestry, who got all the big contracts in Exxon? Well, if it is Exxon, well, we know about that. And all the other gold mining equipment and so on. They did everything else we ought to know by the reports. And that is what this institution was all about. But now knowing the control freaks that they are, they don't like to tell their Kenkota support base how much of them friends and family and favorites got all the big concessions and so on. They want to blanket. Well, they did not realize that EITI, the international body, was going to put so much of trouble on them. And that is what this whole thing is about.
Yeah. David, anything you want to add to that?
Well, no, just other than we're in a really sad state, you know what I mean? Because Kamaj is right. The EITI would expose who since 2020, because they have to declare it frank and full, who got mining license, under what conditions, if they paid for it or they just give it. Who are they? One of the things in the EITI tells you, I mean, they have great names. I mean, they set up the name of a country, company, Guyana Mining Resources Limited, but EITI goes a little further. You have to state who are the owners and who are the directors of Guyana, this new company that they give out and those things like that, you know what I mean? And they don't want that because some of their names are definitely maybe not their particular name, but their friends and their family names will be there. And people will just take it and they make the connection. So the best thing to do is for them to do, they feel, is not submit it. The EITI is giving them until end of May. They wouldn't make it. They wouldn't make the end of May, but they'll sit down and they'll come on the TVs and still blame individuals and civil societies and then of course do what Jagdeo loves to do. So like all you want, we remain poor all the time. Y'all ain't want we take we island, take we gold and them thing like that, you know what I mean? No one is against that. You have to do it transparently, accountability. It can be corruption, you know what I mean? Because of course, I'm sure we're gonna get a serious hit in 2023, the corruption perception for the
index.
The index. So you know what I mean? All they're doing is protecting themselves at the expense of a country. There's enough resources in this country to every single citizen, even those abroad, can benefit. But they only want a few friends and families to do it. And you see them, I mean, everybody buying helicopter and plane and those things like that, you know what I mean, and fancy cars.
Yeah.
You know, the road is not even good at all. They're buying fancy cars and those things, and they're posting on the Facebook and saying that we're little Dubai when the rest of us they're back like Bengal and under flood and those things like that. But friends and
Yeah.
family.
Kathy, I want to make this additional point.
Sure, go ahead, please.
Just like how GYEITI has an obligation to state the names behind the companies, because a lot of them just call themselves all kind of names, whatever the names, the company names or business names. But you got a beneficial ownership is what was mentioned. But just like that, where you got to put it all in the report, we have been asking also for further transparency of almost $10 billion that was spent for Fisher Folk, the flood relief, the
COVID
relief, and all of that. Put the names of all those people that received monies under these various headings, like the Fisher Folk flood relief and so on. That is what is called transparent government. And you will see that if they do that, the country will understand who and who get what and how much and all of that.
Yeah.
But they don't want to put that. Now, GYEITI is not a body that can compel them to put those names. But we as politicians, you Barbicians listening to us, must also make the demand, just like how EITI wants it for the extractive industries. We would like it for accountability purposes for our taxpayers' monies. Because this is taxpayers' money. This is not Freedom House money. And we have an obligation. But do you know, all the time, and I remember making several occasions in Parliament, please print the names on the website of the Ministry of Finance. Yeah. Kathy, I think, and you also did, David, begging them. And you know, they're not doing it because it's corruption. It's rampant corruption in the distribution of that money. They will give some of their friends and families, and they leave out a lot of other people. But when you put it all there, just like what GYEITI is telling them about the gold mining and oil and the forestry and the fishery, how much license you give off in fishery and so on, because all these are extractive industries. They don't want to. But I am saying the same point should be made. Pressure must now come from people telling them, why not put the thing on a website or the ministry print out in one booklet farm? Ramjatan get $250 million again as a second severance payment. Put out it and let me see is how much workers and so on get. Because we now understand, Kathy, that there might be so much corruption that some was siphoned off. Siphoned off for the next campaign for the 2025 elections.
Yep. Well, I remember, 2 years ago when we came to Berbice and we visited quite a few of the villages. And these are all villages. I mean, it's not a particular, ethnic group or anything. A lot of people complained that they did not get those cash grants.
That's right.
And that is where people should, citizens should understand the importance of seeing that information on a website, on a list, because you want to make sure that you and your family get, your neighbor and their family get, and everybody gets. But we got a major problem when only a few people are getting. And as you talk about the helicopters and the fancy cars, this is where we have such a huge disparity, because some people now, with, the cost of living gone up close to 3 times over the last year, they're struggling to make ends meet. And yet you've got another group that are just, moving ahead, getting all the contracts, getting all the monies. And until we share it around, we're not all going to move forward as a country. And that's the sad thing.
And a minister building a 7-story, 8-story building in the heart of Georgetown, one of the sitting ministers, and opening it and renting it out, and no one asks, how can he do that on a minister's salary? They bad talk us about 50% increase, which they promised they can carry down. They never did. But even with that 50% increase, even if I go to the bank, I can't borrow the $1.something billion that it costs to build that 7-story building on Middle Street. Ministers own it, but no one says a word
Yep.
Had
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
been the AP and UAFC, I mean, there would have been cries of investigations and those things. Civil society, not the politician, would be getting up and shouting about, accountability, and let's do some due diligence on ministers. They all went there to the opening on last week and sat down and drank their wine and those things like that. Not one of them looked wrong and whispered, "How can a minister on his salary be affording a building of that size?" Not,
Yep.
I mean, and that's the state we live in. And what makes it worse, Cathy Kemrat, is they're not afraid to flaunt it.
Yes.
Even if you do it and you build it, you want to be in the background. So it can be a rumor, or I mean, it can be whispered and thing. They're not afraid to flaunt it. They flaunt it in front of the Barbadian people's face, saying, "Don't matter what, you're all eating rice and pepper. Here's what I doing. I can afford."
Yeah, and that is the new concept that is being brought into transparency and accountability institutions. They're now talking about impunity. That's the word. Impunity. And that flaunting it that was said by David there is now merely impunity. They feel that they're free to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And nobody could do anything.
Anything. Yep.
And that impunity is a dangerous development.
Yep.
Because they now feel there is no law enforcement against them. There is no rule of law that they will abide by. There is no set of conventions that will limit their misbehavior, and so on. And so that impunity is what now we are going to get dragged into, and we're going to see it every day. When you now raise the question in Parliament, you can't get it heard. But even when you get it heard, they will say, "Well, what are you going to do about it? That's me property. I build it. I do this. But that's my fancy car. I do this. I do that." What you could do? You can't do nothing.
Yeah.
And it's that impunity that is going to create massive resentment in this country. And I've been talking about it recently to some foreigners and so on, that could realize so much vexation that it could explode into a very nasty scenario.
Well, Kamraj, the reality is that if we look at the world, there's from several places that we can look at.
That's right.
You know that when you have these kinds of situations, the extreme between wealth and poverty getting wider and wider and wider, as day covers night, there is always an explosion. You know, we saw a little burst of it in Suriname just the other day.
That's right, yeah.
And there are many parts of the world. So, you know, it would be most unfortunate if Guyana, at the time when we have all these resources, has to go down that road. None of us want to go back to the 60s. You know, we know from our parents what went on at that time. And, you know, it is sad that after all these years, we now seem to be heading back to that nonsense where we can't live together as different peoples and different
citizens of the one great country. Yeah.
Yes, citizens of one great country, David. It is so sad. And this is where we urge our listeners and viewers in their own little groups, in your family. You have to get to the stage where you say, no, we're not going to accept that. We're not going to accept this level of corruption. We're not going to accept leaders that say, you know, I don't care what you think, but this is what we're doing. You know, the private security forces that got guns shooting up in the air. No. We cannot accept that.
Cathy,
very bad.
Cathy, just as a side,
Sure.
and there's something that that has been bothering. Kamraj, you may want to know, but almost every day, if you read the newspapers or the online media, almost every day or every other day, there is an article and it just slips in there about a body found in a trench or somebody found dead. Unfortunate and sad, and condolences to all the families. But it's becoming a trend, as well as road accidents. Every single day, particularly, there's recently in Berbice and those things. Every single day, we are losing good productive Guyanese citizens under some strange circumstances or due to negligence and those things like that. And why I mention it is Cathy, because we seem to be numb to it. There's no outcry. We seem to just simply accept it. You know what I mean? As a people, there's no huge outcry into how a man just the other day over in Region 3 found in the trench. Yeah. And you just found dead in the trench, you know what I mean? No one is there's no public outcry. So I want to urge people that don't become so numb and complacent, uncaring, that when you see these things happening, at least take a pause, a minute or two of the day to consider why it has happened. Grieve with the family, and then think what you can do personally to help someone, because it's just simply amazing how often it's happening now.
Yeah, Cathy, that is a nice point raised here. Only just now, coming back from my office to my home here, minibus drivers, it was a minibus driver. I'm not saying that they are a general category. Driving real fast down the road. And when you would have expected, because I told the driver, at least tell, where are you going? He put 2 motor costs for me. And do you know what? 2 of his passengers also put 2 motor costs for me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
You understand? And I understand he gone and he braced up on a bridge. You know, we as Guyanese, that set of passengers, the 16 person at the back, have every duty to tell that stupid driver, what the hell you getting on with? It's my lives are in danger here. Yeah. But we got this heartless culture. Drive more fast now. Why are you so slow? And so on and so on and so on. And that is why we are ending up. We seem not to care for ourselves. And when we don't care for ourselves, I don't know how we can care for other people.
That's true.
But it is a terrible situation. It's a cultural mindset now that is getting into our heads that, yes, we got to go there as the fastest and so on and so on and so on. And we are not stopping to think and say, hey, stop this thing, driver, or stop this bus, I coming out. You can't be driving that. Whole blasted time is over 80, you're driving. No, they will say, go 180.
Yep.
And then when they crash, oh God, we start crying this and that. And
your families,
a culture to bring it to a halt.
Yeah. So we all have to look at ourselves, you know what I mean? We all have to.
We're all involved.
People, you know what I mean? You know, the murders, everything, you know what I mean? For a country that's supposed to be so, we have struggled for a tremendously long time. Struggled as a country financially and those things. And when it's supposed to be our era to shine the brightest, we're not. And and if at this embryonic, early stages, that we are not grasping that, you know what I mean, and we descending to, imagine as we go further, you know what I mean, what will happen, you know what I mean, petty robberies. We're the every day the PP boats, we're the fastest growing economy in the world. But right alongside that, we seem to have spiraling crime rates. I mean,
malnourishment.
You know what I mean? And the things just, it's obviously, if you were like an alien in space looking down and you're hearing the propaganda from the PPP, the fastest growing, and you say, well, it coming down to earth, this is the place you want to land, the fastest growing. And when you get here to see how we're living and how our situations are, you probably say to yourself, it's a mistake. Something is wrong. I mean, somewhere along the line, this idea of the fastest growing economy in the world and those things like that isn't true. Because the people we're struggling with cost of living, the government not doing anything. They're blaming the Ukraine war, you know what I mean? Of course, the whole world has suffered for the Ukraine war, but we have benefited
because
the Ukraine war, because of course now what the war has done is raised the price of petroleum products. I mean, gas.
Yeah. So on our oil industry.
So while the imports and so would go up because it's we have been receiving more money for a barrel of oil because of that. We're not passing it on. I mean, the last year budget, this year budget, they budgeted at I think it's $80 to $75, but the price of oil is way above that at the moment. That extra $15 barrel every supposed to be coming directly back to us so that we could
The people, the residents, the
people.
citizens.
So when they
Yes.
blame the Ukraine war, must always remind them the war in Ukraine and those things. Always remind them we're making more money because of that war
Yeah.
per barrel.
It isn't coming to people.
But it is not coming to people.
Right. So one of the things that I wanted us to look at is also to provide our viewers with some updates on some key infrastructure projects that we know have been moving along. And I want to highlight that really one of the pluses I think about our the previous administration was a commitment to ensure that we did all the surveys, we did all the environmental impact assessments, because we wanted to make sure that if we're going to spend hundreds of millions on a project, that it's a sound project, that it's not going to be a fiber optic cable project where people don't get internet, or the Skeldon and the Skeldon packaging plant, all those white elephants. But what we're seeing now, David and Kemraj, are some of the projects they have not done the requisite studies, and there's a lot of discomfort in the communities regarding it. So, David, could you give us an update on the Gas to Shore project? And I know that there's some issues there that persons may not understand what the latest issues are, and we want them to know these are projects that APNU AFC had actually started researching. We had done the initial infrastructure surveys. We'd looked at the projects, developed the projects. We know that was the case for the Gas to Shore. We know it was the Demerara Harbor Bridge, David. We remember your presentation on this beautiful bridge. So, it's not that we're against the project, but we want it to be done correct. So, David, you could give us an update on those.
Good. Well, you know the Demerara Harbor Bridge, we did a full feasibility study, which is like you did a traffic study, whereby the volumes of predicted the traffic existing and how much you predict it would happen. But when we did it in 2017, we did a design. What is the most optimum design? We looked at 7 locations, and we came up with who's done to our sales. And it's not only because of the cost, the distance. I mean, it's the channel. Everybody Barbados should know that every guy needs to know that we have a very high siltation in our country. So therefore, when you want the bigger ships to pass, you got to go through. They have to go through the channel. But in 2020, without any studies, without anything, and of course we were very mindful of that you're going within a residential populated existing, and they've existed in the 50s and 60s. Houston, Macdoom for sales, Nandi Park, all those places, they existed in the 60s, 50s, 60s. So we wanted minimum disruption to the maximum benefit, lowest cost, internationally done standards. You want the bridge that will stand up for more than 50 years. I mean, the minimum is 50 years. The PPP came in, no studies, no nothing at all, decided that they're going to build it from Nandi Park, right, which is right next to where the Princess Hotel is, Republic Park in Georgetown. And to build it, they have to move 48 residents that have been there for years. We were always concerned about that. I mean, and then of course we were always concerned that you're building a road in the middle of a residential area, building a bridge, where the connecting roads are going to be, because to get that bridge would be over the existing East Bank Road, where the connecting roads are going to be in those things, because you land in smack in the middle of Republic Park. They bypass that, and the usual thing is that anybody complains want to stop progress, but it's far from that. So there are 48 persons there who will have to be relocated. They give them 2 weeks. Worse yet, Bishop Edgell got up in Parliament when we were questioning this is about a month ago, and he claimed that all the residents have accepted that they're going to move and collected their money and those things like that. That's not true. That's not true. I mean, this guy is a bishop, supposed to be a conveyor of the truth, interpreter of the Bible, notes and that. You can see from the newspapers that that's not true, but they.
Yeah, because there were some protests. There were people protesting.
And you give somebody that has been living there, and then of course, as is in Wales, they're giving them peppercorn money for the property. I mean, and then of course you're saying to them, you have 2 weeks to move out. Where are you going to go?
Yeah, David, how can you give somebody 2 weeks when really I would think that, in other countries you would be given enough notice that you could go take the money, build a house somewhere else, if you want move your family. How could you assume?
But that's a PPP. But see, the problem they have is that they talk without thinking. So they got up and boasted that they're building a bridge in 2 years. They signed a contract in May 2021, which means that on May next year, 2024, this bridge has to be finished. Not a single thing has been done. Absolutely nothing has been done. So they're now, of course, I'd say the emperor's new clothes. I mean, so what happens now is they're trying to force everything on these people and force it, and they're looking at 2025 elections, and you'll see 2 posts up in the air and say, "Oh, coming soon." This whole country be like that, like previews, like when you used to go to the camera and the cinemas, the trailers. So that is exactly what they're doing. So they're forcing these people, right? And then they made a big thing, and I'm sure everybody in Barbados said, "Oh, there's a fixed price contract, and we're suing the Chinese company $25,000 US dollars a day if we didn't finish." It's now 10 months, not a spade, nothing has been done. So they know that everybody will be putting them, and they'll be exposed by May next year, because that's when the 2 years are up, huh? And you will hear all the excuses, and they're gonna blame these poor residents because they haven't moved
for the delay
in 2 weeks, for the delay. Guarantee, just for the blame for EITI, the private sector citizens. They can say because these poor people have been living there for 40, 50 years, can't pick up all their bundles of clothes and carry them and move them. That is why you ain't got to. And they can set up all of those people there are AP and UAFC supporters, and we tell the people, no, you know that's exactly what's going to happen. I mean, I'm like a fortune teller, because the bridge cannot be finished. I don't even know if it ever even work whenever it finished. Like the Skeldon and all the projects, the PP has never completed a successful large infrastructure project. And I challenge everybody to go. You talk about the Berbice Bridge. I mean, I hope they don't raise the fears on you all along there. I mean, out of vexation if you complain and you tell them you don't like them, or you vote for them in the upcoming local government election. The Skeldon factory, I mean, the Marion Bridge. You talk about it. Every single project that the fiber optics you spoke about. The one laptop a family. Using hundreds of billions of dollars. They've never been able to buy, because this is exactly what they do. So therefore, this bridge will not be finished or not even look anything. They'll just put up pictures, artistic impressions. You'll see a few scanty poles in the air, and they'll get up and say, the reason why it hasn't been finished is these poor people who they are moving, the people that living there quite nice and comfortable for the last 50 years. And they said, oh, these are people anti-governmental. These people here are AP and UAFC supporters, and we tell them that you cannot go and pick up your traps and leave into it. But I'm saying this, folks, it is immoral for you to even put that on person. Some of these people have children doing C-sec. Grade 6. Well, we used to call it common entrance. Now it's the grade 6 exam. You're giving them 2 weeks to get up and go, and then you're gonna chastise them for not moving, and then slander and throw mud on them. Right.
That's right.
And force them out.
So you know what I mean?
David, let's go on because I know we're counting down now. Let's go on to any updates on the Gas to Shore project.
Well,
or anything you want to share?
that is one and another pie in the sky project. You know what I mean? Just like a Myla, I almost forgot the Myla. They are using the state of our country's electricity as a weapon against us. So they're holding it out to tell people we have this silver bullet. There's no silver bullet for our power situation, but they're telling people we have this silver bullet. We're going to pump in, do a pipeline, bring a pipeline into Wales. It was going to cost us almost $3 billion US. $3 billion US, because Exxon is 1.2. The gas plants is another 900 million, and then of course we got other almost 3 billion. And when we turn on this switch, no more blackouts. But it doesn't work. So everybody knows that when it rains today, I mean, we did a tremendous lot to try and solve. Rainfall today, you got blackout. Rainfall tomorrow, they ain't looking at that. They just because you imagine if you keep 3% or even 2% of $3 billion US dollars, you know how much money is that? So they're doing this big project here. So they're moving people off their land. They're bringing congestion onto the Fork on the Demerara River. There's no plans as to how it's going to work, but I keep saying to everybody, it's going to be 5 cents, but it can't be 5 cents. A Mile of Falls, they started off telling us it's 7 cents, 7 US cents. They themselves produced a report that when the consumer gets it, it will be 25 US cents. Yeah. We're paying now people are paying 24 US. So it's subsidized. They subsidize the fuel. Our government does that. We're now paying 24. So Mile Falls would have been more than what we're paying now. And this year, what they're doing, this 5%, is not going to work. And here's the crux of it. They are, when you turn on this plant, to make it feasible, Barbicians, right? And I want you all to listen. To make this feasible, you have to shut down every other power plant in the country. So the plant in Canefield, the Skeldon cogeneration plant, the plants in Unvoak.
And even the interconnect system?
Because the 300 megawatts that they're bringing in is more than we can use at any one time. And so right now we produce 150. If you keep all the plants that we have now, plus this, that'll be like 450. We don't have enough consumers. To make it a feasible project, you have to shut down these other generators. And that is really an idea, because the idea always is for power generation. Anybody would tell you is to try and have all your assets, generators, located in different regions in the case of an emergency, in the case of something that happens. But, if the plant at Kingston goes down, at least Berbice, you could just cut a wire, and Berbice has the one at Canefield and Skeldon.
Everything wouldn't come down the same time.
But to make this financial sense, they have to shut down everything. We're producing 150, 160 right now. So in 2 years' time, as apparent to them, we now getting another extra 300 megawatts. So therefore, that's 460 megawatts. To pay back for it, right, you have to shut down every single other asset in the country.
Wow.
And but they don't tell you that. They just tell you, when it comes, it's 5 cents and those things like that. So we'll be worse off, because obviously now, because what we're supposed to be doing with, first, GPR can't take 300 megawatts in their system at one time, right? We're barely struggling with the 150 we got, you know what I mean? It's like, you know what I mean? It's like you're putting super diesel in the old car.
Yep.
Think that, you know what I mean? I thought that because the diesel is new, this whole engine will run faster, but it doesn't work. So what they're supposed to be doing, and what we've been saying, I think even IDB and everybody was saying, is running new power lines from here. Those new, like you see in the movies or in things. Those you call them wicker men, like men, big tall power lines, move away from these timber poles when a minibus. The
whole thing come down. Yeah.
One of the last total system shutdown that we had just about a week ago. Berbice and all would have had it because it's one grid. A fella in an excavator digging a trench, raised the boom up a little too high, and shut the entire country down.
Wow, wow.
Now imagine when you put this 300 megawatt system into the place, one thin little line running it. You shut down Caneview, you shut down everywhere on for work and all these places because you got to make it financially. Imagine the dire straits we will be having.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
But they don't want to look at that because it's not sexy. Yeah. Running power lines is not sexy. I mean, you can't take out you can't have photo up with you on a piece of wire. But you can have a photo up with you and
I know.
So they don't do that. You know, I mean, and it's hard work, almost like sugar workers, backbreaking work to go through the back dams and change and run these things. So they don't do that. So they do the easiest thing possible. Then $3 billion US dollars on a project which will not deliver what it is supposed to deliver.
Wow.
And Kathy,
Kamraj, go ahead, Kamraj.
I want to extend the argument to the other pie in the sky they have for Barbicians, the Palmyra Stadium. Barbicians, that is another, as we talk in the shops and on the road, another, I don't want to call the word, but it is a nasty piece of deception.
But why you say that, Kamraj?
Listen to me. That thing is going to cost, they haven't told us the cost yet, but I'm certain it will cost more than $1 billion.
Oh, wow.
3.7 billion. 3.7 billion.
Yes, billion. Imagine that.
Oh my gosh, not
what
million.
What you're going to do with that money is, as I understand, they're going to give their friend and family the contract and whatever. They're going to get a big 40% cut for the campaigning and all the mischief that they do. But moreover, you can take half that money and a better policy thinker will then go and put that money on Skeldon Cricket Ground or whatever is left of it, on Wim Cricket Ground, Portmorant Cricket Ground, Albion Cricket Ground, and whatever New Amsterdam has. And just like how, David knows about how England, the Surrey Cricket Club, you get one big Lord's Stadium because it is, you're going to play international cricket. Well, we got our stadium at Providence.
Right.
But what you want is that you want the cricketers and all the athletes to do the running and jumping and whatever close to your communities.
Yeah, to build.
When you go to Palmyra in the afternoon, the people come off the workplace or they come off the schools, especially young people. They got to catch another, what you call, bus to reach Palmyra to go there and do the. If you make up,
it's the same thing they did with the athletic track in Lenore, you know what I mean? Put it in the back of Lenore, no one can use it.
Exactly. And it is a foolish thing. It is again pie in the sky. As I have said so very often, the PPP does not only divide and rule, it diverts and rule. And Barbician catching the ass today because of the high inflation rate. They're really punishing. And Barbicians can't deny that. So what do? You create this ambience here that I will go get one Palmyra Stadium like Providence Stadium, you know? And when we were building some roads and doing some bridges and so on, they say, they used to go to the bottom house, are you going to eat road? Are you going to eat bridge?
Yep.
That is the trouble with them here. They want to create all of this now as a diversionary tactic. But better monies and less monies will be spent on the community grounds, and you could have put up nice little stadiums and so on, and very good facilities.
Yeah,
just allow me 30 seconds. I know we're thinking so. I want Kamraj pie in the sky. This here was never mentioned in the budget.
Never.
There was no tender for this project. You know what I mean? Just come on the blue. But here's the interesting thing, Kamraj. The company that is building it is Caribbean Green Building Inc. And if you can remember, that is a company that doing some hotel that Irfan opened up on the Bank. But if you can remember during the budget, I was questioning Edgel about a $15 billion office complex that they just did up, that they said they're doing in somewhere on East Bank. Guess who's the company that building that? They're building a hotel, a hospital, the same Caribbean Green Building Inc. No tender. No nothing. Never ever went to empty tablet at all. Just a big splash like that. More, but we talk more about that in
We're
another
gonna,
time.
yeah.
Time is
I'm
going.
glad that
Time
you
is
mentioned
going.
that, David. That is
Time is
fantastic.
going. Caribbean Green Building Inc. folk. You all listen for that. And we remember we were talking about EITI, Kati. Sorry about the beneficial owners. You have a nice name,
we
green,
need to
and
check
this.
that.
Right back to that there now.
Right. And as we close off, we want the purpose of our programs is to bring information. The purpose of this kind of discussion is to encourage our viewers to have these discussions in their homes, to be more vigilant. At the end of the day, we celebrate that as a country we have more resources. But similarly, on the other hand, we want to make sure we get value for money. And therefore, we're saying to all our viewers, all the residents, if a contractor is coming to build a road, we don't want him to do a road they're going to wash away tomorrow and you, the citizens, not have the benefit. And that's why we have these discussions, and that's why we're speaking so much about these kinds of projects, so that people will be aware, and as citizens, we get involved, we speak out. You take that photograph, post it on your Facebook page to show work that has not been done properly. You ask the contractor why you in your community should accept a road or a bridge that is going to break up tomorrow and not be there for your children. We are working to create a better Guyana. And if you have information you don't want to put on your Facebook page, folks, you can contact any one of us through the AFC office in Georgetown, or send us a message on any social media platform. And ask a couple people, you're going to get our numbers.
Yeah.
So, David and Kemraj, we're out of time.
That's right.
Yes, that went quickly.
Thank you, and I'm very glad to be here. And we're going to take up that stadium at Palmyra and try to get to know who the people behind Caribbean Green Building Limited.
Absolutely. Yes.
Take care.
David, you're going to say something?
No, I'm just going to say a good night, folks. It's a pleasure being with you. Happy Pagua next week.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Happy Pagua.
And be careful on the road. Enjoy yourselves, but enjoy with caution and care. And remember, as I'm pleading, and I'll continue pleading, let's look out for each other.
Yes. Let's get back to that caring spirit we know Guyanese have. So in closing, I say to all our viewers, thank you for joining us this Saturday evening, and stay safe. Thank you.
Good night.
Take care. Good night.
Bye.